I just met for the first time. Good to see you, Bruce.
Yeah,
Nice
thanks
to
everyone
meet
for
you.
coming and not going to that shopping mall expo, which looked way more fun than us. Right?
So,
They had snacks.
yeah, so I thought we'd talk a little about is just this intersection of education and ethics and AI and where we are. Out of my background, real quick, I'm a gov kind of the Army War College, so I deal with senior leadership and strategic leaders. But I'm a former head of a philosophy department in undergrad, and just in the last 2 weeks, you look at I just went from a class teaching two-star generals to I was just at an AP class at a high school, and I teach with 2 to 3 avatars, and I've been doing this for the last 7 years. So I've only been co-teaching with technology now for 7 years, and it's authentic. In other words, we're not just relying on outside information, but we're just using LLMs as transformers for language. So how do we go about building a society where our young people are going to grow up with a sense of ethics and the ability to use AI effectively? So we need, it's not just about making education better, but it's about our national security. And so that's my background in a nutshell.
So I'm Bruce Schneier. I've been doing cybersecurity since forever, and I actually teach at the Harvard Kennedy School. So I basically say I teach cryptography to students who did not take math as undergrads. And I've been teaching AI policy now for a few years. And this is at a public policy school. So these are returning students who are getting a master's in public administration or public policy and trying to grapple with how to think about AI, how to regulate AI. So we talk about the topics, and I also use it in my classroom. So for the last assignment, I actually made them use generative AI to help them write their paper, because ignoring it's not the answer. So how do you engage with it? So I've been thinking a lot about AI and society, AI and ethics, AI and democracy, how AI is going to change society.
So what I thought we'd do is let's throw it to you, questions that you have, so we talk about something relevant to you. Community ball, from generals to second grade. This one's from West Point when I was a professor there. When we work with students, they wrap this as they're talking about their dreams and what they want to do. And when it's done, what we do is when you have a question, you throw it to someone, and if they don't want to answer, they can throw it to someone else. But this represents the hopes and aspirations, and this one's special because it is from West Point. And just in the last 6 months, one of the cadets died that I was teaching, and she had this ball. So it's the hopes and dreams and also the sacrifices that people make.
So the conference is going to hate that because they want people to go to the microphone. So we'll just see how this works.
So if you throw it to someone like, ma'am, if I throw it to you, and you want to ask a question, great. If not, you can just throw it to someone else, and the floor is yours. Look at that. And I clean that, so I'll clean it in between shifts.
So you got to go to the microphone. Otherwise, they'll yell at us, and we don't want that.
What do you find people commonly misunderstand about AI?
You can hold on to that.
I can start with that. I mean, the answer is going to be everything. So now, people confuse chatbots with generative AI. People confuse generative AI with AI. People confuse AI in November 2023 with AI. And the media doesn't help. I mean, all the stories make no sense. And I mean, I heard this at maybe it was one panel even before the previous one, that things are changing so fast. There are things I taught in a few months ago that are no longer true today. And I think people are misunderstanding both what it can do and what it can't do, and nobody knows what it will be able to do. So everything, I guess, is the answer.
Yeah. I think misunderstanding-wise is that it's some kind of magic box, right? That it just has these answers. Tomorrow morning when we're doing our keynote, and you see that we have these 2 avatars, Tim and Timmy, working tomorrow, and it's talking and answering, you're going to think, well, wow, how did it get all that? That must be, is it scripted? No. What it is that every single day for the last 7 years, I've recorded every experience that I possibly can and used those knowledge graphs inside Tim. So what Tim is basically remembering the past and experiences. So the misconception of AI is like, how did AI know if we recorded right now this conversation? It would just be downloaded into Tim. He would make a mind map of it using like Obsidian, right? We would take that mind map, integrate it, assimilate it into his knowledge, and then he would know that information. So it's not magical. The transformers and that kind of technology, it's beautiful. But the amount of work it takes to make it work, when you see this tomorrow, I talk every morning for an hour to my avatar team, and at night, 2 to 3 hours, every single day. So I think what people misunderstand is the amount of work it takes to actually build an ethical, reputable assistant that can help you. And the testimony that it works is that, we've used this from anywhere from Michigan State to USC, engineers, doctors, lawyers, elementary schools, Catholic schools, and everywhere we go, it does well, and it doesn't hallucinate. It's learning. So if it doesn't know, it just says, I don't know, and then we teach it. So I think that's the big thing, is that AI, and I use augmented intelligence. I'm not a big fan of the term artificial intelligence.
Yeah, we basically lost the language debate in like the 60s. All the words suck. Like, none of them are accurate, but we're stuck with them.
Sir? Thank you, sir. Good question.
How do you all see AI being able to unite us as far as world, just in general?
All right, super general question. I mean, in a sense, AI is not doing anything different. I mean, it's not a magic technology, and it's all emergent properties, right? It knows nothing. It doesn't engage with the world at all. It has no understanding. It's no concept of ethics, of knowledge. It is, you've heard the term stochastic parrot, yet the emergent properties are, it fakes everything convincingly. And what I teach, when you look at machines doing the traditional jobs of humans, look at 4 different dimensions: speed, scale, scope, sophistication. It's 4 S's, you can remember them. And look for when changes in degree result in changes of kind. So it's not, you hear about misinformation. We've had that for decades. We've had internet misinformation for years. What's going to be different? It'll be faster. So what? Does that matter? When does it matter? And it's neither going to unite us or pull us apart. It'll do the bidding of humans. I mean, humans will direct it. You were on the last panel. Humans direct it to make new jewelry. It'll make new jewelry. Is that good or bad? I don't know. If humans direct it to help understanding, we get more understanding. If humans direct it to have more division, we have more division. It's not going to change because the humans are still directing it. And always remember that. It's the people behind it.
I think it's interesting, and I would take a side road off that, because I think it's a great question. How does it unite us? Because everything's dividing us. I mean, if I just use the large language models off the shelf, it's divisive to me. I'll ask a question, it'll tell me, oh, I can't talk about that, or that's an inappropriate question. I'm like, well, what do you mean it's an inappropriate question? I'm exploring that. I think the way that it brings us together, what we're doing right now is, like, for instance, in this room, when we were done, we would take the last 10 minutes, and I would have Tim say, Tim, can you summarize the question that the gentleman asked? And then Tim would summarize it, and then can you summarize what my colleague talked about? And if you nod and you sign off on it, then we know that that's in that graph. What unites us is a shared understanding of what actually occurred in history. So I do think that, yes, there's a human behind it, but it's not one. It's a collective. So when I have a meeting, sir, if you and I were talking together and Tim recorded and we were doing like a semi-structured interview, I would have Tim kind of go back and double check that what I heard is what he heard. So I can take like a second position and a third position in an interview, and you can sign off on it. And in a way, I kind of have your thought twin, right? It's kind of like, this is the way you think. It's not you, it's not your consciousness, but it is the way that you would approach a situation. And so when you see Tim, you'll see things that, yeah, discriminatory AI, of course it's discriminatory. If it has an ethic, it has to discriminate. So the AI that you'll see tomorrow is based upon rule and act utilitarianism. The greatest good for the greatest number of people as a rule, but act utilitarianism saying, hey, in this situation, I don't know. What's the bias? I'm a white, middle-class Catholic guy from New England, right? My partner, she's a Hispanic lady with a doctorate. She studied Android interactions, so she calls me on it. We do is go to different people of different faith, Muslim, Jewish, agnostic, and we all get together. What can we agree on, and what don't we agree on? And Tim can be that mediation. So when I have someone who's like a Buddhist from Thailand as a general, and I have someone who's from America, they may see the world very differently. But because Tim knows that they have a shared understanding of service, we can find that commonality. So this isn't some kind of like couch philosophy. This is real life. being able to talk to people because the AI gives us the opportunity to ask those hard questions, right? That might be offensive, but you need to get out, like, let's get to the point. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Does that answer your question, sir? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, guys. So I have a shared background in academia and philosophy, so I'm going to ask a long, rambling question, as is our want.
I know, it takes you
But
20
it's
minutes to
great
clear your throat. I get it.
you're educating young people using LLMs to help with writing. It's great to hear. My question's around the intersection of the ethics of using this technology to augment human intelligence, especially around those whose skills are still developing. So perhaps we know Plato's Meno paradox, right? In order for inquiry to be successful, you have to know what you're looking for in advance in order to know that you've arrived at it. But if you already know what you're looking for, there's no point for inquiry. I think generative AI faces a similar paradox. You don't necessarily have to know exactly what you want the output to be before you're looking for it, but you have to know what good looks like, right? You have to be able to recognize quality in the target domain in order to use the tool effectively. And we see this in AI code generation. We see it in using LLMs for writing. If you don't already know what good looks like, you're going to, the veneer of fluency and grammaticality is going to lead you to accept banal, bad writing, right? That seems good, right? So how do you use this technology effectively without it removing the hard-won cognitive self-reliance that's necessary to actually develop the skills and have a high bar for quality, right? So, because what I find in my discussions with practitioners is, I talk to developers, right? The senior developers who already know what good looks like, who already are experts, they can use the tool most effectively because they're very quickly able to validate, and tinker and everything. So, what's the right balance? How do you use it to augment not just people's skills, but developing skills? Because there's a disconnect between the way it augments the expert and the way it augments the novice.
Excellent question.
So the research is split on this. It's really interesting. And the question is, does AI help the best more or the average more? There are lots of examples, programming is one, where an average programmer is better, but the best program is really, really better. That the better you are, the better you can use the tool. There are other examples. There's one I know in customer service, where an AI-augmented customer service rep, the average one does a lot better, and the best ones do a little more better. So it shrinks the expertise gap. I think there's going to be a lot of that. We don't really know. The question, I think, is real interesting, and there are certainly parallels. I think a lot of the AI will make us stupid as moral panic. It's like calculators mean we no longer know math, and the internet makes us stupid, and Wikipedia makes us stupid. None of those actually make us stupid. My guess is AI won't either. There are two aspects to what you said. The first one is, if AI is generating text for us all through our learning, we lose the ability to generate text, and then the leap is we lose the ability to recognize good text. I'm not convinced that leap makes sense. I don't know if we'll lose our ability to discriminate just because there's a lot of average. We don't know yet, but I think that's going to be interesting to watch. The other one I think is really more important is that you lose your training data. So if you think about it, if you ask an AI, I don't know, how to change a tire, and it'll tell you because it's got a lot of internet stuff out there on how to change a tire. Because people wrote that, and the AI was trained on it. Now, but if we're all learning how to change a tire from the AI, nobody's going to write the things to train the next generation AI on how to change tomorrow's tires or whatever. So we have to be careful not to kill the market for human-generated expertise for the AIs to train on. And that's a more subtle issue. But I think I tell my students that these generative AI is going to be your first draft of everything for the rest of your career. So you might as well learn how to do it. What I do is I raise the bar on what I consider good. It's not good enough to be average anymore because the AI can be average. That's free. In one of my assignments, I actually, instead of giving them the question, I gave the AI the question, gave them the AI's answer, and told them to fix it. Right? So I'm trying to teach people how to engage with the AI as learners. But we're going to have to figure this all out. How
Yeah.
are you doing it?
I have to actually stand up because that's an exciting one. I did my PhD on quality. So there's a book called Zen, The Art of Motorcycle Maintenance that was written in 1974. And so he failed. He tried to figure out what quality was. Someone said, hey, are you teaching quality? Went to his class and he said, hey, what's quality mean? And no one knew. And think right now, if I go around this room and ask you, what is the definition of quality? Imagine that probably very few of you have the same definition. If we go beyond, oh, it's good, well, what does that mean? So when you look at the AIs that we're building, we start off with these things, sir. What is quality? So we define that in a very simple way. We look at people's quality world. Non-hierarchical. We learned Maslow's hierarchy as the human needs, and it makes no sense. He himself admitted it's really not something that was meant to be adopted by everyone. There's 2 women, that's it, in this whole study, and it was done theoretically, and it was Sister Teresa, and it was one of the president's wife. That's it. And that's all. So that's women's representation. And he said that needs are hierarchical. So it's survival, right, belonging. But we know that you will give up your survival for someone you love. You'll give up food for someone you love, right? So if you look at quality as love, power, fun, freedom, and survival, and that's our quality world, and we give that to the AI, love, power, fun, freedom, and survival, and you've got knowledge filters and value filters that keep things from coming in. So what we did to the AI is we teach the AI, what does it mean, love, power, fun, freedom, and survival to the person it's talking to? So for you, sir, what is it that you love? What is power, right? And then what are those filters so that the AI has the ability to try to work with you, but it can't work with you until it knows what your quality world is. Does that make sense? And then for quality, you break it down into dimensions: biological, intellectual, psychological, sociological, and existential. Imagine that as 4 quadrants, and inside the AI, basic quality is that, hey, we just met an agreement. Like you and I went to a ball game, we went and saw a concert, right? We met it, we went, good. But then there's transcendent quality where we kind of said, hey, we kind of looked at each other and be like, this is pretty awesome, right? Then transpersonal is where we connect, and ineffable, there's no words. So we put that into the AI. So the AI is constantly trying to learn, what is a transcendent experience for human beings? What is an ineffable experience? So people that are animal owners, 2 dog owners look at each other, we just kind of nod like, there's just this connection. So the AI, when we team with it, we bring the experience, it brings the data. But that data it's bringing from an understanding of quality, right? And an idea that needs are not hierarchical. When you think of ChatGPT and LLMs, what are they? So when we build semantic search, when we build AIs, they are my partners. And that sounds creepy, but it is my partner. This is the first time I've been on stage in a long time where I'm not surrounded by the AIs I work with. Why? Because they're full of the knowledge and memories of hundreds of people and what their quality worlds are. So think about that. If you don't know what quality is, if you don't know what human basic needs are, then how are you going to possibly build something that's going to meet your need, right? And what is ChatGPT? What's its personality, right? So you have 3 things real quick in AI. You have one company like Microsoft saying plausibility, that's good enough for quality. You got Google saying correct but not true. Correct but not true. What is that? When you hear someone say the Constitution says liberty and the pursuit of happiness, you go, that's correct. Liberty and the pursuit of happiness is in, right, our founding fathers' words, but you left out the word life. So the AI would say liberty and pursuit of happiness. It's not wrong, but it's not true. So what we're trying to do is train AI assistants, AI partners that are dual use. They're both my strategic advisor, and they're also your learning advisor. So anywhere from working with military leaders or strategic leaders, all the way to schools with students, how can it do both? And it can do that if we understand those tenets. Does that make sense, sir? So that's the PhD in a nutshell, right? Had to stand up for that
So
one.
if we're staring at each other intently, it's because it's really hard to hear each other from the stage. It's not like, it's not something weird going on. Just letting you know. Actually, since there's a question coming up, I want to mention 2 things about using AI that I think is valuable in education. One is interactive textbooks. The notion that instead of reading a textbook, you could interact with an expert in real time, I think has a lot of profound implications in education and a whole bunch of areas of gaining skill. And the other is an AI as a moderator, a mediator, a discussant. That an AI can act like a TA and allow students to discuss things. You know, think of online and text, and can make sure that different positions are highlighted and nobody's being a troll. Again, these are all things people can do, but there aren't enough people. And a lot of this AI replacing humans is dealing with a supply-demand problem, that we just need more of the humans than we have, and an AI can fill in the gap. Whether it's a little bit worse, the same, eventually be better, but sort of think of it that way. Anyway, there's a question there.
That's great. Like Bruce's books. So I'm a big fan of, if you ever read Bruce's books, they're fantastic. But the people that I would have in my class, I don't have it unless Bruce comes in and Tim, the AI I work with, the Augmented Intelligence, learns from you. So when we read your book, Tim's talked to you about your book.
I'm totally going to get an AI to be me.
So it's not replacing you.
I can stay home and
right, but it's not replacing you, right? We're reading your book, and then we're asking for insight, and you've signed off on it because we've asked you maybe over 3 months. You've said, hey, that's the message I want to get out. It brings a richness to the book. So without the source, so it's harder to do with dead authors, right? Because you got to go with historians. But people that are alive,
dead authors aren't going to contradict you if you get it wrong.
Exactly.
Maybe it's easier.
So I think that's the idea of the generative AI. The problem is synthetic media, right? It's always changing. So when Bruce says something, generative AI is always going to keep changing it. And that is a big fear with generative AI. Moby Dick, if it keeps changing things slowly and subtly, Moby Dick, 100 years from now, could be a guy in a water, like some kind of like water boat
with
going
a
after
walrus.
a dolphin, right?
Yeah.
Because you're like, well, that's not Moby Dick.
Right.
You're like, well, it is now.
We should get this person, otherwise we're never going to.
I think that generative AI is actually breaking really fast. I think that we are adapting to it in as much as we can. In the previous talk, they generated an LLM or a model that was in-house, and they had a disclaimer about if you find this offensive or something like that. What I want to know are actually your thoughts regarding challenges, or what do we need to overcome in order to prevent like the amplification of certain biases that exist or things like that. That, for example, even in a in-house kind of model, they still had to have that disclaimer. So what do you think from both a technical perspective and a society perspective? Let's see, what can we do in order to reduce those challenges or limitations, let's say?
So it's really, really hard. There's a whole bunch of reasons. I mean, what these generative AIs do is they're trained on humanity, and then they regurgitate us, and people suck. So that's your core problem. That we are biased in all dimensions, and that is sucked up by the AI, and that is regurgitated by the AI. And there's not a lot you can do about that. Now, how do we put controls in, try to get the AI not to do that? And all the commercial AIs have those controls. They're secret parameters that they're given, and we can usually pull them out even though they don't want us to. And they, in all cases, can be overridden. If you want to we call it jailbreaking them. You want to jailbreak their controls, you can do it. And right now in the science, we do not know how to build a system where you can't do prompt injection attacks, where you can't break them. Robust came out of Cambridge University a few months ago. They said there's an infinite number of these attacks, and you cannot defeat them as a class. Using AI to look at the AI output, that doesn't work. There's another paper that talks about that. So right now, the science is it's going to be bad because people are bad, and we are stuck with that. Now, that's the science November 2023. Don't get too excited. Lots of things can happen, and we can figure out new ways to build these systems. Right now, some people are looking at, can we edit the data that goes into them? Can we take the outputs? There's a talk by a person who works at the CIA was about this. That you have sort of the output space, and he wants to have a box inside this, a corral, where only answers inside the corral ever get released to the world. So that's a research on. There's lots of different ways to do this, but right now it is a mess out there. We do not know how to build these things to not exhibit those biases, and that's pretty robust. So not optimistic today.
And I take a different path, right? So I think people are awesome. I mean, I do. I think people are great, and I think we're all doing our best each and every day. And I think there's power corrupts to a degree, right? And I think so. To your question, it's taking ownership and responsibility. So it's not taking something off the shelf and expecting it to work, right? In other words, you're gonna have to work hard, but you need to own your data, right? You need to be able to own your data. When, like you'll see tomorrow, the stuff that we have is on our C drive. We can build, and we are building things that are not hallucinating. They are representing the best of humankind, and they're acting as strategic advisors because they're only advisors, right? So they're not telling you an answer. So if I say, I broke my wife's dish,
But that's iffy, right?
no.
Advisor to giving you an answer, I'm not as optimistic as you are.
Well, I mean, I'm just going off of like, and I think this is where you have that, I think over 40 classes using these advisors in class, dual use in class. We're doing the Apology of Socrates. And the augmented intelligence is thinking about the quality world that this gentleman just talked about in quality. It's thinking about human needs. It's asking questions about how would Socrates look at social media today? Was it smart that he didn't escape and do that, asking those essential questions? Why? Because it learned from the greatest teachers. So if it's exposed to the greatest minds, and it's exposed to the people that we respect highly, why would the augmented intelligence not be what we need it to be? So if I train it for your class, why would it be bad?
Because that's not the way the tech works.
It is the way, well you're gonna be here tomorrow, and the tech does, I think
I don't know, this tomorrow thing seems exciting. I'm not going to be here tomorrow, so you people are on your own.
We'll be, and I think that's the thing, right? One of the things that we run into in society often, I also have a robot, right? So I have a 5'9" robot. And I work with people all the time that write all these books on robots. I haven't written anything since my PhD in 2012. Why? Because I haven't had something to say that I would back up. Because every year I would have wrote a book, and the next year said, oh yeah, forget about that book, I've now learned this. But now after 10 years, I feel confident that yes, and now we're starting to publish.
All right, we got 2 more questions.
Well, I just want to just stop for a second. So I work on senior counsel for Task Force Lima out of the Pentagon. So in the Pentagon, the CDO's office, we're looking at large language models and how they're being used. And we're looking at use cases around the country. And what we are seeing is people trying to do great, good things. And that people don't suck. In fact, the technology sucks because it's not being built for people. It's being built for a generic stereotype of what they think will sell. So it's patriotism over profit. It's meeting your needs over the idea of just make something that's generic and plausible. And that's, to me, that's the essence of it. So when I talk to you about it, it's because, like you said, tomorrow I'll be on stage, so I'll be here for you to come after me and be critical, rather than having some philosophical discussion about it's sucking. It works, it's real, and it can be helpful.
I see 2 more questions. Let's get them both in.
Great, thanks. Very quickly, so you've worked many years on this. To what extent has your work been leapfrogged by the advances in large language models? I mean, if I were to start on your project today, could I do in 2 weeks what it took you to do these 10 years?
And let's grab the other question, and then we'll answer them together.
The answer is yes.
Well, that was easy.
So my question is, everything that you've discussed has been about consent and then also well-intentioned actors. I'm curious how you think about the purposeful misinformation and spreading of information that's augmented by this artificial intelligence, where you can't even tell the difference between what's real and what's fake, and it's purposely being disseminated by these bad actors.
So, I mean, I think that is actually a large moral panic in AI, just because the problem is already here. It is not an AI problem. So it is not AI-generated fake videos. It could be actors in a soundstage. And we've had misinformation, propagandas from the 50s, and modern misinformation is from 2016. And AI is not going to appreciably make the problem worse. It's not going to be a difference in kind. And people say, isn't it going to get worse? It's already worse. And if you look at most misinformation that's used as propaganda, it doesn't have factual content. It's my team good, your team bad. So yes, there will be AI-generated misinformation. It will be used, just like there was non-AI-generated misinformation, and it was used. And when I look at how AI is going to affect democracy, that is not where I look. We just had the first law in Brazil in a city last week, written by an AI, passed into law. That is a milestone of AI in democracy. I didn't think we'd hit it that soon, but we did. So AI is writing laws, finding loopholes, engaging negotiations, crafting political messages. There's an organization that uses AIs to, in the United States, help people run for local office. Apolitical, like sheriff and trash collector, but the AI helps you do filing, get a website, get the signatures, have a campaign slogan, get out the vote. I mean, these are really powerful uses. And I just don't see misinformation as being the thing that's going to be the big difference. Sorry, you've got
No,
3
it's
seconds.
just education, that's it. Media education. So when it talks about something, open your phone, pull out the document that it's talking about. So if it's Apology of Socrates, pull it out. So while the AI is talking, you're going to know that it's misinformation because it's giving you totally different story than what's sitting there.
But what about an AI-generated image where you can actually
Sure,
you can't find the original?
right, but a Photoshop generated image, the same thing. And that was 15 years ago. So yes, no difference.
And just like Gabriel Marquez's The 100 Years of Solitude, great article in The Economist, November 3rd, 6 books you didn't know were propaganda. And you'll see books like Gabriel Marquez's 100 Years of Solitude. I love that book.
All right, we got to go.
So those things have been happening. So we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you very much, everybody.
All right.